Bhagwan Shri Yogi Ramsuratkumar ki Sarvam Yogi Ramsuratkumar Ashram Today, a very special day, an auspicious day. It's called Thaipusam Day, and also Paurami, the full moon. On auspicious days, any sadhana bears enormous fruit. Aren't we lucky, especially blessed, to be able to sing the powerful name of Bhagwan for 1 hour, the second time together. We have been singing the name all through the day, but this is something special because it gathers so many people from different places, and together we sing, which again is extraordinary grace. So let's celebrate this moment of huge grace, and offer our grateful pranams at the holy feet of our Bhagwan. Once, Taylor Paddlington had come to see Bhagwan. It was he who stayed for nearly 7 months with Bhagwan when he was still wandering the streets. He would choose to sit in certain places. They were regular haunts for him. At that time, Taylor was hardly 20 years and a science student. Was chosen by Bhagwan for his work, the work of the first ever book on him. One day, Taylor Paddlington asked him whether Bhagwan knew everything, that he is becoming one with the cosmic consciousness. Does it imply that he is conscious of everything? Bhagwan simply smiled. Generally, he would not answer such questions. He would never encourage people to ask questions, far less when they probe into his way of working. Bhagwan admitted, yes, this beggar can know everything when it is required. Then Kalar asked him, would he know nuclear physics? It's okay, the incidents that happen, the incidents which involve people, but what about subjects, especially something like nuclear physics? Would he know the details, the inner details of the science? Bhagwan once again smiled and said, yes. So you see, these are the rare moments when Bhagwan would reveal his inner state of being. The Upanishads say, like I said yesterday, when that is known by a seer, everything is known. Everything is contained in that. So why wouldn't they know? But then Bhagwan always said, only if it was necessary, he would go into it. Otherwise, he would say his language, Father would let this beggar know the details that are necessary for his work. Well, we don't have to go into it elaborately. Enough to say that he knew enough to decide the future of people. I remember another incident when Shri Ganeshana was with him, and somebody had come, a lady had come crying to Bhagwan, saying that his son had simply disappeared, and she wanted to know from Bhagwan when he would return. Surprisingly, Bhagwan mentioned a particular date. And true to that, of course, he came back. But then, Shri Ganeshana, who was sitting nearby watching the prediction of Bhagwan, asked him the same question. Swami, how did you know that he would return on this particular day? Bhagwan would not answer this question straight. Instead he said, Ganesha, have you read Othello by Shakespeare? Ganesha knows that MA in literature, English literature. So when Ganesha answered, yes, but not exactly. Then Bhagwan said, well, you have not read it, so you do not know. And then stopped at that. Which meant he had read it, so he knew. So what exactly is this reading it? It's not a book. If you consider the life of a person as a book, then these jnanis, the seers, who know the past, present and future, who can know if they choose, they go through, they know, like reading a book. They can read the life of a person and would know exactly in what chapter, what incident takes place. In this case, Bhagwan was asking Shri Ganeshana in which chapter Othello was killed. So you see, these are all very rare revelations where the jnanis choose to answer. They don't have to answer, they wouldn't answer. They won't encourage people to ask questions. Now why do I mention this? Bhagwan decided something in my life too. When I was far from knowing anything about the future, I had no idea at all what was awaiting me. Once, at the time I was still working in the college, and I was very closely associated with some devotees from Ramakrishna Math, and I was drawn to it. I was also worshipper of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa and Chardham Devi. I took initiation from Belur Ramakrishna Math, Swami Vireshwaran, and was chanting Ramakrishna mantra. And some of us used to move closely with each other. We decided to make a trip to the Himalayas. I had already seen Bhagwan, I had already come to him. And the very first time, Bhagwan had initiated his name. I had a great experience in his presence the very first time, which changed everything about my life. And after that, Bhagwan became that experience for me. He became the embodiment of the experience that he gave me. I could only look upon him that way. And what was more, I saw Ramakrishna Paramahamsa in him. I saw Chardham Devi. I saw Swami Vivekananda. At times he was like Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. At times he was very patient and motherly, but would behave exactly like Chardham Devi. How did I know? I had read about. And of course, he was so majestic, and the way he talked and walked, so many ways. He reminded me of Swami Vivekananda. So I was completely drawn to Bhagwan, began to identify him with Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. So when we decided to go on a trip to the Himalayas, I came to Sannadhi Street House and asked Bhagwan. This time Bhagwan said, yes, you can go, but one thing, when you feel the need for help, just call out this beggar's name. My father Urush helped him. With this promise and blessings, he let me go. It was a trip to the Chardham, Jamnotri, Gangotri, Kedar, Badri. All in one trip, within 10 days. When we climbed up, we had to walk about 13 kilometers up Jamnotri. And this group, we were 7 or 8 people. Well, after we started walking, we soon fell into different groups according to the speed with which we were able to walk. There was a friend of mine with me who was also drawn to Bhagwan. So we began to chant Yogi Ramsuratkumar, and we were walking ahead. When I saw the beauty, the majesty, the divinity, and the vibrant presence of the divine, the Shakti of the Himalayas, I was reminded of Bhagwan. For me, it meant Yogi Ramsuratkumar. And I was very excited and sometimes overwhelmed. And then there was a sudden pang of longing. As we were chanting, I was just telling my friend, see, Bhagwan had promised, if there is a need, we could call out his name. Now, I feel a sudden longing to see Bhagwan. This is my need now. When I look at these mountains, these pure white mountains, and the vibrant energy of the place, I suddenly feel an attack of longing for Bhagwan. I'm going to call out. So with longing, I started to chant his name. And while walking, we were talking also, and we made some jokes and we were laughing together, my friend and I, and suddenly turned to one side. A little far away where people could not reach, a little high up, far away from the place, there was a single tree, and I saw Bhagwan standing there. I could not believe my eyes. I was stunned for a minute. And then when I saw, suddenly the excitement came and I wanted to share it with my friend. So I was trying to draw her attention. See, Bhagwan is. I just turned for a fraction of a second to tell her, and then turned, he had disappeared. But then the promise was there, fulfilled. I was able to see him. And then I realized this longing to see him for a fraction of a second materialized, and he was there for a fraction of a second. If I had continued, if this longing had continued in depth and length, surely I would be able to feel his vibrant presence always. So with this thought, we started to walk even faster, chanting his name. When we neared the peak where Yagna was trickling, it was getting very, very difficult to climb. It was very steep. We were also exhausted towards the end. Every step was painful. We were panting for breath already. One step, two steps, we would get exhausted, and then we would have to sit down for a while and then continue. But then somehow we managed to reach the place where Yagna, just starting, dripping from a certain place. So Yamunotri is something I cannot forget. My first darshan away from him, my darshan of him. And of course we collected some water in a bottle, in a can, all for Bhagwan. And then after that, Gangotri was another experience. The whole mountain, I had no idea what happened to me even as we were going in the bus. When I was just looking around, the several folds of the mountain, so green and dazzlingly bright. It was so rich with the vibrant presence of the divine. I felt the horripilation all over, just at the look of it. Surely there must have been many, many rishis seated somewhere doing their tapas. There was such a current of the spiritual current that made itself felt by me. And then when we reached the place where Ganga Mata's temple was there, and very near that was a place where the Ganges was of a different color. There was a lot of mud. It was more like slush, thick. The water was thick with mud. And yet, it was Ganges coming from Gomukh. And the minute we saw it, we rushed into it. But then, you can imagine how cold it must have been. But somehow we managed to, with my chanting Yogi Ramsuratkumar, Yogi Ramsuratkumar, I was able to have a dip in it. Of course, I nearly froze, and every other person also. But we had some arrangement, and we were saved. We were given enough warmth. But that again was possible only because of his name. Otherwise, I would not have stood that. And Kedar was again a lot of walk. Once again, some 13, 14 kilometers of walk. It was green everywhere, and this Mandakini was flowing down there, 150 feet drop. On the one side, on the left side, it was like a mountain, lots of boulders, with grass growing tall and thick between the boulders. And a man was coming with us, and we were talking about this. How about climbing up this? Is there a way to reach the temple? We were adventurous. I always liked that. And I had the guts, both of us, my friend also. So we were just thinking about it, and then this man came along and said, yes, that's another path by which also you can reach the temple, if you have the guts. If you can dare, do it. We were very excited. We said, of course, why not? Then we told the other friends, and then we said, okay, you walk the beaten track. We would come up the boulders, and we started to climb. That man also gave us a full lemon with the salt in it. It was already steamed with salt. He said, whenever you felt while climbing up or down, you feel like vomiting, just take a bit of this and you will be all right. We had no idea who that man was, but then he was there promptly when we wanted some details about climbing up. Encouraged by him, we started. It was difficult to climb, but then we managed because we were high-spirited. We caught hold of the grass and found a foothold here and there, and it was very, very exciting. But until we came to a point where the rock was broken, and there was a width of about 2 to 3 feet. And down there, 150 feet or 200, Mandakini was flowing. She was wild and rough, with a definite force. It was a little frightening to look down. But then we had to cross that gap. How could we do it? We had to jump across. It seemed very risky, Though it was only 2 feet wide, we had to calculate, we had to do the jumping, and there must be a foothold on the other side, and the rock, it was raining, so the rocks became slippery. So for a minute we didn't know what to do. I just stood there and then began to chant. Otherwise we had to come back the whole way and join other people. Then I thought, okay, Bhagwan had promised, whenever you find anything difficult, you just call out. We already had some experience, and so I just closed my eyes, shouted Yogi Ramsuratkumar, and jumped across. Of course, I slipped down a little bit, but then I found some grass there, and then I caught hold of it and steadied myself. And then seeing me, the other friend also, she was even more daring, and then she too jumped across, and then we started once again. After that it was not very difficult. We reached the temple, Kedar temple, 1.5 hours before the others. It was a shortcut but very difficult one, but we were very happy we took the path. But then it was every bit of the climb was only by the grace of Yogi Ramsuratkumar. His name was constantly on my tongue, and every time we caught hold of the grass for the grip that we needed and a foothold, it was he. He was the grass, he was the foothold. When we jumped across, anything could have happened. 2 feet wide gap. Had we fallen, they could not have picked up our bones. We would have been easily carried away by the force of Mandakini. It would have been horrid for everyone else who accompanied us. It was a certain calculated risk, but then by Bhagwan's grace we were saved. However stupid it was pure grace of Bhagwan that saved us, and we were very grateful, and we decided we wouldn't indulge in such things anymore. After that we came to Badrinath. Badrinath, because we could go up to the temple by bus. There was no need for walking. And after darshan of Badrinath, the night the group had planned to stay the night there. We had gone by a bus to all the 4 places, and the bus was full of old people, children. In North India, that was one thing that I constantly saw. People are very devoted to God. And no matter 70s, people in their 70s, 75, 65, women and men. And what was more, they had a heavy luggage to carry. They just didn't mind carrying a luggage on their back or on their shoulders. And the women, for their part, had children to carry. They just didn't seem to mind at all. They didn't think it was a burden, and they were able to walk. So devoted were they, and so high-spirited. Nothing else mattered to them except the deity. So that night when we stayed in a chowtri there, I heard the driver and the conductor talking among themselves. I just happened to pass by. The conductor was telling the driver, did you note it? The sky? It's overcast, which means a certain rain. And if it rains continuously in the night, soon the road would be filled with ice. And then it would take minimum 3 days for the army to come and clear. We do not know what Badrinath has decided. And then they drank. Those people always drink because they had to put up with the cold of the place and they had to work, earn their living. So they drank and went to bed. After I heard this, I just came into the hall and saw all those old people and the children. And suddenly, the whole thing overwhelmed me. Something happened to me. I thought, these people, 3 days, how could they stay? How could we stay for 3 days if the road is covered with ice and if the bus couldn't move, you would have to halt there? And what would the children do? What would the ladies and old men do? We are totally unprepared. And then I just sat there, began to chant Yogi Ramsuratkumar Nam. It started to rain. The more I chanted, the more was the downpour. So naturally, once again, I was overwhelmed with tears and with chanting until I fell asleep. All the time praying, Bhagwan, please stop the rain, please stop the rain. Let the roads be clear for us to move on from tomorrow morning. Please do something. Prayer, and chanting. And no idea when I fell asleep because I was already very tired by the journey. But then even when I got tired, I was going to fall asleep, I would look at the children, very, very small one, 2 years, 3 years, and the old people, and again I would push myself hard, stay up and chant and pray and chant and pray. But at one point, I was overcome with tiredness and fell asleep. So when we got up around 6 o'clock in the morning, there was a bright sun already. I had no idea when the rain stopped because it was raining continuously. And the driver and conductor again, when I was passing by, somehow Bhagwan arranged the scenes in such a way that I could hear their conversation exactly when I needed to. They were once again talking to each other excitedly. Do you see, despite the rain, how bright the sun is? So nothing would have happened to the road, so we could start moving. You can imagine how happy I felt, and I thanked Bhagwan heartily because I knew it was Bhagwan's work. Such was the rain, heavy, heavy rain. It was lashing out in the night. In the morning, nothing happened to the roads, and the sun was bright up there. How was this possible? Except by grace, and I knew it was Bhagwan's magic. After we collected water everywhere, all for Bhagwan. Then finally, after we returned to Chennai, we rushed, my friend and myself, to Sanadi Street house. And Bhagwan asked us, did you call out this beggar's name? He asked very innocently. What happened there? Did you ever call out this beggar's name? Was there any difficulty anywhere? And smiled. And that smile betrayed that I knew that he knew, and he knew immediately that I knew, and then I started to describe everything. He was smiling and smiling, a very knowing smile. And then at one point of my description, he raised his hand. There was such radiance on his face. He blessed us so much. Just at the time when he had finished blessing us, we thought he was going to leave us now. Shri Dwaraknath Reddy and his family, his daughter Sandhya, they all walked inside. And then Bhagwan wanted to go to their place. We did not know them before, and then we knew that Bhagwan was going there. So somehow we begged and we also got his permission to come there. Because we had carried all that water, hoping all the time we could wash his feet with it. That was our idea. And so when we went to Kripa, opposite Ramanashram, the lane, Sri Dwaraknath Reddy's place, whom I used to call Appa. And as soon as Sandhya saw us carrying all that water, Bhagwan stepped into the house. She ran inside and brought a plate, and we begged him with our eyes, though we didn't say anything. We were praying that he should permit us to wash his feet with that water, the holy, holy water of the Himalayas. So he immediately obliged, he stood there on the plate. So to our heart's content, we could pour that water We washed his feet, and the plate was full with that water, and there was a lot of mud. He must have walked here and there before that. And then Sandhya immediately wiped his feet with a towel, and he went inside. Immediately, there was no one else to claim this water. We poured that water into 2 vessels and drank up the whole thing. What a fortune it was. How could we ever miss it? We had planned it all along, but though we were not sure, because Bhagwan was like fire. One could not easily approach and ask him for such favors. Nor would he admit, nor would he permit. So, but that day was a very special day of grace for us. He permitted, and so that day we drank up, all the mud also went. We didn't want to leave even the mud. The whole lot went inside, both of us. We wouldn't share it with anyone else also. There was nobody interested in it. It was a special luck for us. So that is how the whole trip ended. A very auspicious end for us. A very special blessing. Of course, we spent the whole day with him there. That could make another story. There's no time. But after that, we planned again to go to Amarnath, and then Kailash was lining up as a third. So second time for Amarnath, those people are waiting for me to take permission because they also enjoyed this grace on our way up the trip. And when I came to Sannaji Street House to ask him for permission and blessings to go to Amarnath, I was highly excited. I was so sure that he was going to do the same thing this time also. So here I was waiting for a chance to put it to him. And every time I started, I said, Bhagwan, Amarnath, and suddenly, how would he know? I didn't know, but he would also start at the same time. So I would stop saying anything, and then he would continue saying something. Then he would stop. And then after some time, second time I started. Just when I started, he also started to say something. So it was left unsaid. And the third time again it happened. Then I knew deliberately he was avoiding my asking. But still, I could not afford. I had to push ahead and find out what was on his mind. Why would he do that? So this time when he said, this beggar is going to leave you now, I was all set up, determined to ask him. So as soon as I went near him, I just poured out the words. I said, I want permission for Amarnath. This time deliberately he kept quiet. But in between, when people were coming inside and going out, he would turn to my side and say, for this beggar, Arunagiri will do. No need for Imagiri. It's Himalaya. So he said, Himayagiri. For this beggar, Arunagiri will do. I deliberately refused to take the hint because I had a doubt that he was referring to me. But somehow I was not able to accept it. So I was telling myself, he is talking about himself. He doesn't need Imagiri, Arunagiri would do for him. So I waited till I could take leave of him, and before that I spoke out. And then he looked at me, he stared at me for a little while and then said very sternly, for this beggar and Devaki, this Arunagiri will do. So you see, that sealed it. After that I could not go anywhere. I let the other group go. And I had no idea why he was saying that. But later, I found myself settling down now. I did not go anywhere for so many years. So you see, the Guru decides. He looks after us right from the moment we were born. He was looking after me. It was His grace that was at work. Whenever I felt the divine grace, I didn't know at the time. But the Guru starts controlling your life. The Guru starts running your life with all its details right from the beginning. You don't have to meet him on the physical level. The Guru always knows the people who would come to him. A Jnani, a Brahma Jnani, one who has become one with God. How would he not know? Especially the Jnanis with the mission. So he sealed once for all my traveling. And after that, only Arunagiri, till now. Now that Bhagwan, who saved my life across that gap, the jump, who settled me down in Arunagiri right at his feet, at his lotus feet, where I live happily. I'm happy to live at his feet. Not because it's Arunagiri, it's because it's his feet. That's what matters to me. And this Bhagwan is here right in front of us. The one who knows and settles things for us when we seek his help. We should submit today's prayers at his feet. Bhagwan, we seek your immediate divine intervention to settle things in our favor, stop the spread of the disease, uproot the fear from the hearts of people, free the entire world from the clutches of this Rakshasic virus, and bring back normalcy in every aspect of life, everywhere in the world. And Bhagwan, please enter the vaccine so that it would work kill the virus without any side effects, and that it would reach all those people who deserve it, who need it badly. And the sevaks who are in the field fighting the disease against all odds, please give them protection. And we very badly need a boost to our economy. And above all, we pray to you intensely, soulfully, for that kind, compassionate glance of yours upon us, so that we could remember your name constantly and go about life with the attitude of gratitude, the attitude of being good instruments in your hands. Jai Yogi Ramsuratkumar.